So Xbox recently announced that Halo Infinite was going to be delayed from fall 2020 with the launch of the Xbox Series X into 2021 sometime. They haven't given another date. They haven't said anything further. They just said that they're not releasing it at launch with the Xbox Series X. They're not going to have that big flagship title with the Xbox Series X, and that it's going to launch sometime in 2021. We can only assume that this comes as a surprise not only to us, because it was a big surprise to us as this game's only a couple months out, but also to the developers. You know, we saw when they revealed the gameplay at their games showcase that the gameplay looked great. I'll be honest. I thought the gameplay looked really fun. I thought the platform that it was building looked like a really cool, at least base idea for things that it can be built on. But especially graphically, I, along with many others, thought that it looked fine. It was decent, but it didn't look like the game that Xbox was really touting as, we have the most powerful hardware. Look what can be done on this hardware, on the Series X. Here's why you need an Xbox Series X. It was really just like, it was fine. It looked like it could have been done on current gen hardware, to be honest. It looked like something that was really familiar. So I can only assume that Halo Infinite is being delayed for mostly a graphical push. I'm sure they're doing a lot of things behind the scenes to make it run better and to make it, overall a better experience. But I feel like personally a big push behind it was graphically to up-res those textures and make it run better, make it more optimized to run on the Series X at higher resolutions. And obviously, I want to get the obvious out of the way. This is a huge blow to Xbox. The Halo Infinite was the biggest launch game that I've seen in a long time. Like, when you think about the Xbox One and PS4 launches, they were fine. They didn't have that huge of games though. The biggest one I can think of is the PS4 had Killzone, but that wasn't much. But this was supposed to be the game that really sold the Series X. Xbox One has had very admittedly from Xbox people, very obviously to the consumer, a not good generation. I mean, console hardware, it's sold fine. When you look at it compared to other console sales, it's sold fine. It hasn't been this huge disaster that everyone thinks it has been. It's sold somewhere 40-50 million units. Those are respectable numbers. But when you look at it in context, you look at the PS4 obviously is somewhere around 110 million units sold. It's on PS2 pace still 7 years in. And even the Switch is, I believe, already outsold the Xbox One. So when you look at it in context, the Xbox One has had a not good generation. And to see Xbox come out and make these pushes the past couple of years, to see Game Pass come out and xCloud come out, and even backwards compatibility a few years ago, to see them, kind of push for that innovation, push for the pro-consumer viewpoint that they've been they wanted to take that side so they can use that to their advantage as their competitive advantage against Sony when they don't necessarily have those first-party games and that consumer base that the PlayStation has. And this was supposed to be their launch into a new era of Xbox, a new window of how you can view gaming and how you can view this platform and hardware and especially this game series. So it was really, this is a blow. This is a huge blow to Xbox. And, it is still kind of going to be that window to the future. It's not like it's canceled, not like the game's never coming out, but to have it on day one, on launch day, was supposed to be hey, you get this new box and you get this game. That's how launch games work. But it was supposed to be that kind of like, here's what you get, here's what we want to do. And not only that, but Xbox has had this shift toward pro consumer, like I said, but the shift towards no longer console sales. Like, console sales don't really matter as much anymore, and they're focusing much more on subscriptions, like the Netflix thing. They care about Game Pass subscriptions. That's where a lot of their revenue comes from now. And this was supposed to be that next step. This was supposed to be that gateway to Game Pass for people to say, hey, maybe I don't even buy a Series X. Maybe I have an Xbox One or One X, or even a PC, and I say, I just want to play Halo. Like, I love Halo, whatever. I just want to see what's up with it. So I just play on my Xbox One or PC or whatever, and subscribe to Game Pass for it, because instead of buying it for $60, I'm just going to buy it for 10. And then they continue to play it. They keep playing it over time, and they say, oh, Game Pass is a pretty cool service. Like, let me just keep buying, and then that's how you rope them in. Now they don't have that. Like, that was supposed to be the cycle that ropes people in and gets people to buy a Series X, but that's not really going to happen anymore, at least right now. Like, that, maybe it happens in the future, but then you look at the future of Xbox games and it gets a little bit more crowded. It's not like, oh, I can buy Halo Infinite and that's kind of all I get on Xbox. It's like, there are a few other games that are coming out, like, Fable, Forza, those kinds of things. Even Gears 6 is probably coming out eventually. So it's tough to see that it was very clearly planned that Halo Infinite was supposed to be that jumpstart for people to play, get roped in, subscribe to Game Pass, and then eventually be like, oh, I might as well just get a console. If I'm getting a console, I already have Xbox, like, might as well just get a Series X, or a Series X2 when it comes out in a few years. But the other thing is that it was supposed to be their big jump into the games as a service deal. I've talked about how I think that the way they're doing this now is they're focusing on first-party games at Xbox being more of that games as a service thing, which is why Halo Infinite isn't Halo 6. It is Halo 6 story-wise, but it's not called Halo 6. Forza is now just Forza Motorsport. It's not Forza 8 or 9, whatever the number would be. Fable is just going to be Fable, and all of them are platforms. None of them are just, here's a story, and here's a bunch of things. They're all, here's an open world, and here's a platform that we can keep building on and keep evolving and keep putting more content. Just like something like Destiny that's now coming on Game Pass, and even something like State of Decay, which I could see doing it too. I think that that's where Xbox is heading, and I think this was supposed to be that jump. This was supposed to be people saying, again, they have that brand recognition with Halo to say, here is Halo, here's a game I like, I want to play Infinite. Oh, I like it. I like the way that it's set up. I like the way that it's being, sold to me through this subscription instead of through, like a actual game sale. And then that's how you keep people coming back, and that's how you keep those subscriptions up. But now without that, maybe it just pushes it back, delays the inevitable or delays the same deal of people coming in. But I think it is a little bit more of this was supposed to be a jumpstart because it's so timed with the launch of the competitor with the PS5, where the Series X has an uphill climb, and now that the console isn't going to be launched any later. The console is still coming out this year, probably just about the same time as the PS5. But without that big flagship competitor, it's hard to, or that flagship game, it's hard to sell it just on its own merits, especially when you have the PS5 that has, Spider-Man and Bugsnax and all those. Like, PS5 isn't going to be short on games. The Series X was going to be that Game Pass machine, keep you coming back, powerful hardware, things like that. But to have this delayed makes it a lot easier for a consumer to say, I like this idea, but Halo Infinite's not coming out for another 6-7 months at least. I have the money to buy either a Series X or a PS5. Why wouldn't I just buy a PS5? Because the PS5 has more games, and the Xbox Series X might have, maybe it's a little more powerful. Sure, it has Game Pass, but I'm not getting Spider-Man on PS5 or on Xbox Series X. So why don't I just go back and play on the PS5 where I'm getting most games anyway? Like, you're getting most games on either console regardless. Why wouldn't I just go to PS5 that has that Spider-Man, has the Bugsnax, Deathloop, things like that? And I think it puts Xbox at a big disadvantage. It's kind of like a soft launch of the console when it comes out to another like second half soft launch when Halo comes out again. But with that being said, I don't want to count Xbox out totally. And I do think that, like I've said, Xbox is at a big disadvantage right now. They have both a consumer-based problem, like a tangible numbers problem, but also a bit of a marketing problem where they're, here's this big flagship game, it's delayed, what now? But even when you look at the rest of the launch lineup, which is pretty bare, it's pretty non-existent. I was trying to come up with some names for it. Flight Sim, maybe. The Medium, we know that the fact that the Medium is probably the big launch title is a little disconcerting, but that's kind of that. But the launch title is Game Pass. And here's how that is. Game Pass is a lot. There are so many games on it for me that personally, I haven't decided which console I'm going to buy at launch. I'm honestly kind of just waiting to see price, which, side note, can we get a price? Can we get a price, please? I'm just kind of weighing it, but I see a lot of benefit with the Series X in that I think that Game Pass is a better overall value than any single game that Sony can offer on the PS5. I see the Series X will come out and there are those new games. There, the Medium is going to be on there. Tetris Effect is going to be on there. All smaller games like that are going to be on there. But I also know that I have those other games from the past. I'm gonna have a Forza. I'm gonna have past Halos. I'm gonna have Gears, and a lot of other things, like even a Red Dead or things like that. Even games I've played, but those are going to be there, and they're going to look good on Series X. They're going to be enhanced, and then you have something like a Cyberpunk that's heavily associated with Xbox. Whereas on Sony, it feels a bit more like a generational exclusivity deal where it's just I'm going to the PS5, and sure, it's backwards compatible with most of these games, but maybe this is a marketing deal, but I don't get the sense that I'm buying a PS5 and have all these games on it. I get the sense that I'm buying a PS5 and I have Spider-Man. And that's for an extra $60 probably. Or I have Deathloop and that's for an extra $60. Whereas on Xbox, I feel like I have that entire library of games at just $10 or $15 a month, which I think is a really, really strong argument for it. Because the other thing that they've been touting is not only that the exact launch isn't necessarily the time where you want to have just a bunch of games thrown at you. Obviously, having Halo there would have been the game that you would have been looking at, but it's not like I want to go into launch and see, I have Halo Infinite and Forza and Fable, because I'm just going to be playing those games over the course of a bunch of months anyway. If Halo came out in November and then Fable came out in February and then Forza came out in June, I'd probably get to those games at about the same time anyway. So it's more of an outlook deal than it is having all these games at once, even though it is a lot easier to market the idea that you have a better launch lineup. With that being said, though, it's an uphill climb for Xbox. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it by saying that there's Xbox has the better lineup, or Xbox has like the really big undeniable force. It's going to be an uphill climb, and like, let's just be 100% honest, PS5 is going to outsell the Xbox Series X this fall. And I think that's a foregone conclusion, but I don't necessarily think that that's the end of the world, because in the same way that Netflix doesn't really sell that many TVs, I don't think that Xbox selling that many consoles is that big of a deal. Like, it's not that much of a hit to their business model as it would have been and was in 2013. Obviously, that comparison is a little off because it's not like, maybe it's the equivalent of Netflix selling DVDs and things like that. But I do think that Xbox is shifting, and Xbox is saying, we want our money from Game Pass instead of from console and game sales. So here's all these reasons to get Game Pass, even if it's not on a Series X. And if you buy a Series X, that's great. But it's here's more and more reasons to buy Game Pass and to subscribe to Game Pass. Here's xCloud. Here's all these new games. Here's every first-party game. Here's Live Gold. And, here's just a bunch of deals. I think that's where they're heading, and I don't think they're being coy about it. That just seems like where they want to go. So even if the Series X sells, maybe not abysmally, I think that's a strong word, but sells comparably pretty not great compared to the PS5, which I think it will, I don't think that that's necessarily the death note that it might have been, and a little bit was, in 2013. But with that being said, they still have to deliver. And the assumption that I've been riding on this entire time is Halo's going to be good, and Gears is going to be good, and Fable's going to be good, and all this. And if they have a dud, then you're kind of out of luck. Games as a service are great if the game is good. Destiny works because Destiny is good, but Anthem didn't work because Anthem wasn't, or at least a lot of people didn't think it was. So Destiny has had that staying power, but Anthem hasn't. If Game Pass and the games on Game Pass don't continue to be good and have that staying power, then that's where you're starting to lose it. And with that being said, I hope that these games continue to be good, not because I'm rooting for Xbox over PlayStation, but because I'm rooting for competition. PS5 has a clear competitive advantage here. They have the games, which are the biggest part, but they also have the consumer base. So they have reasons to say Sony can just put out the PS5 and they don't even have to market it, and a lot of people will buy it because they know the games are coming and the games are going to be good, and they usually are. Xbox has more of an uphill climb and has more of that work to do with consumers, and I think they're doing it, but they have to keep hitting those benchmarks. And Halo being delayed is a big one that they're not able to hit. But you hope that it comes out and it's good. You hope that they continue to deliver with all these games, and you hope that it continues to be competitive. We won't know where Xbox stands comparably because the metrics for doing that are shifting so much. It's not like PlayStation has an equivalent of Game Pass right now, although I hope they do soon. But so that means that they can't compare, because PlayStation is going to say, "Oh, look at us having X many more console sales, but Xbox is going to say, look at us, we have all these subscribers on Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and on PC, which is just two different metrics. So it's going to be hard to compare in the future, but I still hope for competition, and I just continue to hope that the games are good. Because let's be honest, that's all that matters. And I really hope that both PS5 and Xbox are able to thrive in an environment where they're diverging so much. Because, they are two different strategies, and they are really going to have to find their footing in new territory. Sony less so, whereas Xbox is really shifting and really diverging. But it's going to be interesting to see where they stand 6 months from now, a year from now. Just, how well is the PS5 sold? How well has it continued the momentum of the PS4, the massive momentum that it has, versus how well has the Xbox been able to recover from the Halo Infinite delay, pick up subscribers, continue to keep them, and deliver on the promises that they've made and hopefully continue to make. So that's that all came from Halo Infinite being delayed, but I do think it speaks to a larger idea of Xbox having this strategy that's really being disrupted right now. But you hope that they're able to recover and move forward and continue to succeed, more so hopefully than the Xbox One generation, and to make it a more competitive generation or series of generations, however it's going to go. So yeah, that's that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.